present on that particular topic. So first of all, I would like to introduce Dr. Manusi and go through her brief profile. Dr. Manusi is associated with the Department of Communication Research and Outreach Activities of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, that is IIMC, and Autonomous Institute of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India. She has done PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University and is working in the area of communication for last 14 years. She has written 2 books and more than a dozen research papers and chapters in national and international publications. More than 24 research papers are presented by her in conferences in India as well as abroad. She has also participated in 14 national and international workshops and different conferences. She has led 17 national level major projects for Government of India and organized 9 national and international workshops and seminars at the Institute. So it is our honor and privilege to welcome Dr. Manusi. I hope this session will be a very enlightening one, a very thought-provoking and informative one. So let me welcome Dr. Manusi. May I request Dr. Manusi, ma'am, to just proceed with her presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry for delay. Actually, I was unable to unmute myself because access is in the hand of host. Very good afternoon, everybody. I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Very good afternoon, everybody. Hope you all had good lunch, and now we have another lunch for the research. So as you all are aware that today's topic is the scientific misconducts, falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism. I want to keep my video closed because of the network issues. So I think it is fine with everybody. Okay. So give me 2 minutes to share my screen with you all. Just give me 2 minutes. I think this setting is again in the hand of host. Please allow me to share my screen. Hello, sir.
Okay, ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah. There is issue with the sharing of the screen. I think some restrictions are there from your side, sir. Please, can you check it? Well, okay. I think there is some problem with the sharing of the screen, maybe because of the restrictions. Let me start with today's discussion, which we have on the scientific misconduct. So there is one quotation by Albert Einstein in which he says, many people say that it is the intellect which makes a great scientist. They are wrong, it is the character, which Albert Einstein had said long back. And I think in today's session, we are going to discuss this thing only. So it is the character which make great scientists. So in research also, it is the behavior, it is the character which decide the quality of the study or the research. So let us begin with the simple question. I would like to ask you all, what are the characteristics of a researcher? Please, I think you people don't have access to mic because of the host has restricted it. So let me start let me continue this discussion from my side only. So if I ask this question, what are the characteristics of researcher? Then I think the answer must be that the researcher should be ethical. He should conduct his work in the framework of legal framework. He should follow the professional guideline. So I can say that yes, a good researcher must have a characteristics which we can expect are these characteristics are adhere to the ethical, legal, and professional guidelines that structure how research is conducted. So these are the basic characteristics and these are the basic behaviors which are expected when you conduct a research. So let me come to the scientific misconduct. When we talk about the scientific misconduct, then there is the one thing which is important is to understand what does it mean. So as I in the starting of the session, as I told you that when you talk as I discuss in the quotation of the Albert Einstein that he talks about the character. So it is your behavior which talks about your character, and it is your character which decide what kind of a person you are. Similarly, when we talk about the scientific misconducts, then there are some research behaviors which can be odd, with the core principles of the science or the research, that they are treated very harshly by the person, by the researcher or the scientific community, and by the institution or the university that oversee research. So collectively, these actions have come to be known as scientific misconduct. So it is a behavior. There are the decided guidelines or there are the decided patterns, or there are the decided procedure in which one should conduct research. If somebody or someone doesn't follow these procedures and these guidelines, definitely he and she falls into the scientific misconduct. So as such, there is till date, there is a huge debate among the scientists and the researchers on the definition of scientific misconduct. But one most important statement, which is developed by the US Office of Science and Technology Policy, which has been adopted by most of the research funding agencies, defines misconduct as a fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research, or in reporting research results. So this is the statement which is given by US Office of Science and Technology Policy, and everybody presently almost every country is following this thing and this statement. So according to this statement, the three elements of misconduct are defined. These are fabrication. Fabrication is making up of data or results, whereas the falsification is manipulating research material, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data or results such that the research is not accurately represented in the research record. So it is about the manipulation. And the third important misconduct is the plagiarism, which is quite popular nowadays. And every scholar is very much aware about it and very much concerned for it when they conduct their research. Plagiarism is the appropriation of another person's idea, process, result, or words without giving appropriate credit. So it is about the credential to the real researcher of the work. So other than this statement and these describing these three misconducts, US Office of Science and Technology also included some other misconducts. Like the federal statement says that to be considered research misconduct, actions must represent a significant departure from accepted practices. As I said, there are the guidelines which we follow when we conduct research. But if there is any significant departure from this procedure, definitely it will fall under the misconduct. Another thing which this statement also add is it must have been committed intentionally or knowingly or recklessly, and must be proven by a preponderance of evidence. According to the statement, research misconduct does not include difference of opinion. So leaving the difference of opinion, the other these remaining things which this statement has added falls under the misconduct. But there are certain other research institutions and research funding agencies throughout the world which define scientific research misconduct more broadly. And they have included some other types of activities as a scientific misconducts, which includes abuse of confidentiality in peer review, failure to allocate credit appropriately in scientific publications, not observing regulations governing research, failure to report misconduct, or retaliation against individual who report misconduct to the list of behaviors that are considered misconduct. So this is all about the scientific misconduct. Let us come to the falsification and fabrication. The one important thing between the fabrication and falsification is that it is not easy to distinguish these two. If you remember the definition which was mentioned in the statement given by the US Office of Science and Technology, fabrication is defined as making up data or results, whereas falsification is manipulating the research materials, equipments, and processes. So so it is really hard to differentiate between these two. So when we talk about the fabrication, then fabrication is making up of the data. So it is a reporting on the experiments that never happened or information that never existed. Whereas falsification is different in that an experiment might have taken place, but some measurements were altered. Let me give you an example, like the reuse of an image to represent two different experiments could be interpreted as either falsification, that is the changing of data, or fabrication, that is the making up of a data. So this line of difference between these two kind of conducts is very thin. Other than that, so there are other examples where it is really difficult to draw a line between fabrication and falsification. Like if scholar artificially creating data when it should be collected from an actual experiment. So this activity comes under both fabrication as well as in the falsification. Like another activity like unauthorized altering or falsification of data, documents, images, music, art, whatever. It can be, it is difficult to draw line when hiding data, results, or information using inappropriate scales, magnification and representation in charts, graphs, and other forms of representation. So these are the activities and these are the examples where it is really difficult for the scholar to differentiate between the fabrication and the falsification. And the third important misconduct, which we discussed earlier, is the plagiarism, which is quite popular nowadays in the research community. And everybody is very much concerned about this misconduct. Plagiarism is a type of a cheating that involves the use of another person's ideas, words, design, art, music, etc. as one's own in whole or in a part without acknowledging the author or obtaining his or her permission. So plagiarism is not just restricted to written text, but it is applicable to other works such as ideas, designs, arts, music, painting, everywhere. So there is one special case which we mostly we can see in the student communities, student research, students who are involved in the PhDs or the dissertation thing, is the self-plagiarism, in which mostly an author, yeah, please.
Ma'am, sorry for interruption. Now you can use PPT if you want, because you have been made the host actually. You can just, if you want to just share the screen, you can. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible. Can you just put it on the slide someone? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That is much better now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let me just revise a little bit. Let us go back so that you can get idea what exactly I was trying to tell. So we started with the quotation of Albert Einstein, As he said, most people say that it is the intellect which makes a great scientist, but he said, no, they are wrong. It is the character who made the scientist. I asked about the characteristics of the research. The answer was the researchers are expected to adhere to ethical, legal, and professional guidelines that structure how research is conducted. Then we discuss scientific misconduct, in which I talked about the research behavior. There are already decided behaviors which should be followed by the scientific community. So if the research is not conducted with those behaviors and those without following those guidelines, definitely there will be a problem of scientific misconduct. And as I discussed, that there is no specific still there is a huge debate going on among the scientists and among the countries on the definition of scientific misconduct, but the most appropriate and highly used definition among the scientific community and the countries is by the US Office of Science and Technology, which says that misconduct, which defines misconduct as fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research, or in reporting research results. We discussed fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism in detail. Falsification is making up of data or results, whereas falsification is the manipulation of the equipments, processes, and results. And plagiarism is not giving the appropriate credit to the author, and copying of the idea, processes, results, pictures, ideas, whatever. So other than that, the statement, this US Office of Science and Technology policy, they also discussed some other kind of misconducts, which also which falls under scientific misconduct, and these are abuse of confidentiality in peer review, failure to allocate credit appropriately in scientific publications, not observing regulations governing research, failure to report misconduct, retaliation against individuals who report misconduct, behaviors that seriously deviate from commonly accepted research practices as possible misconduct. Yeah. So we discussed about the falsification and fabrication. It is really hard to make difference between the falsification and fabrication because there is a thin line between these two type of misconducts. Sometimes there are the activities or there are the misconducts which can be which can fall in the falsification as well as in the fabrication. These are the activities, these are the situation where it is really difficult for the scholar to draw the line between these two kind of misconducts. So we were talking about the plagiarism. As I already discussed, plagiarism is a type of cheating that involves the use of another person's ideas, words, design, art, music, etc. as one's own, in whole or in part, without acknowledging the author or obtaining his or her permission. Plagiarism is not just restricted to written text, but it is applicable to other works such as ideas, designs, arts, and music. So anything which the researcher or the author copy falls under the plagiarism. Let's talk about the different types of the plagiarism. There are different types of the plagiarism. Since now being a teaching community or being in academia, or every day we come through this term. And it is very important to know the different types of a plagiarism, what kind of a plagiarism is happening every day. So the first type of a plagiarism which we can see in our daily life is the direct plagiarism, in which what author do, he or she copy another writer's work with no attempt to acknowledgement that the material was found in an external source is considered direct plagiarism. So the author pick up another author's work as it is and put it in his or her research paper or study. So it comes under the direct plagiarism. So how we can avoid it? So to avoid it, the best way is paraphrasing. And please note down that paraphrasing is expressing the information from a source with your own words without changing the meaning of the original source. It is not that you just play with the words or play with the sentence structure. It is all about rewriting things in your own word with the original, with the exact meaning which the original author wants to share. Let me come to the direct patchwork plagiarism. This is another kind of a plagiarism. Direct patchwork plagiarism occurs when a writer copies material from several writers and rearranges that material with no attempt to acknowledge the original sources. So generally scholars do, they collect informations from various scholars and they make they develop a paragraph and put it there without acknowledging. So this is the another kind of a, plagiarism. This again, it can be eliminated by giving by acknowledging the sources and the authors from where the information has been collected, and paraphrasing is the another way. Yeah. The third kind of a plagiarism is the insufficient citation of partial quotations. So sometimes what actually this, yes, insufficient citation of partial quotation occurs when writers incorporate into their own text words or phrases that are stylistically or intellectually marked as another writer's within a large paraphrase of source without using either quotation marks or proper citation. So sometimes what happens, scholars, what they do, they try to paraphrase things, but they sometimes they took some sentences or some information as it is from there and they put it in their content, and they think that it is not plagiarized now, but it is plagiarized, and it is insufficient citation of partial quotation plagiarism. So again, always try to give always try to mention your always try to give the citation, and in such cases it would be better if you can means you can give little bit description in the end notes and footnotes. So this thing will remove some kind of a plagiarism from this kind of a text. So another kind of a plagiarism is paraphrasing or summarizing without citing sources. This paraphrasing or summarizing without citation occurs when a writer changes the words of an original source but uses the ideas in it without acknowledging that those ideas are not his or her original thoughts, even if the writer adds his or her own spin to the original. So again, paraphrasing and giving the citation is the solution to eliminate this kind of a plagiarism. Then comes the insufficient citation of paraphrase or summary. So this includes changing the words of an original source and using the author's idea without attempt to acknowledge the material source, but without correct or inadequate citation is considered as insufficient citation of paraphrase. Then another type of a plagiarism is plagiarism of graphs, charts, figures, or images. When we use graphs, charts, figures, or images as it is from other sources and we don't give them citation, then again it becomes a case of plagiarism, and it can be you can save yourself doing this by giving the name of the source or the citation is the important in this kind of a plagiarism. Then comes the misinterpretation of material as common knowledge. Sometimes when scholars works, they thought that it is a common knowledge and they fails to provide citation for material because they believe that it is a common knowledge. Rather, it is not. So it also comes under the plagiarism. So it is always better. Don't think that, don't misinterpret the material or the content that it is a common knowledge. Always give citation. So whatever you write, whatever you read, from where you collect information, always give citation. So there are certain tips which I have tried to present here to avoid plagiarism. How you can avoid plagiarism? Learn the principle of good writing. It is very important. so that you can have necessary skills to express your ideas in your own words. You need not to depend on others' writings. Poor writing skills often results in unintentional plagiarism. This is the major reason of the plagiarism. So I would like to say that please improve your writing skills. It will reduce the chances of plagiarism. The another important quality or the tip which I would like to share with you is the learn how to paraphrase a source with your own words. People, most of the time, researchers and students think that, okay, if there is on some paragraph, they try to write it in their own words by copying their ideas. But again, because you are copying somebody's idea, again it falls under the plagiarism. So try to learn how to paraphrase and try to give the citation if you are paraphrasing, and if you are not aware that how to paraphrase and what you have paraphrased, if you are not, a little bit confused, so it is always safest mode that please give the citation from wherever you get the idea. The third important tip is learn how to cite sources properly. Mostly student community, they lack this a skill. Because of this, they face the issues of plagiarism. So please learn how to cite sources properly. There are the ways. There are the proper citation styles like APA, MLA, Chicago. These are there. So it is very important that learn that how you can cite your sources. Another thing is don't assume. Okay, learn what plagiarism is and what it is not. Still, most of the scholars are confused that what is plagiarism and what is not. This confusion is still among the students, among the research scholars. So it is very important. What is the difference between, I mean, what falls under the plagiarism? They must know about this. Okay. They should learn how to detect plagiarism, and they should know that after this paraphrasing a source, how that content has become, means I mean, they can convert that content into as their own content. So they should be aware about all these processes. They should know, means they should be able to identify words or phrases where in means if means they should identify their own words and phrases which they have tried to write from the original source, must be, means they whether it is plagiarized or not. So these skills they should have these skills now. So basic thing is that they should learn that what plagiarism is and what it is not. And another important thing is, please don't misinterpret or manipulate what was intended in the source to suit your needs. Because everybody has different situation. Every work is different. So, and in social sciences, it is in every second, in every inch, it is different. So always please don't misinterpret or manipulate what was intended in a source who have a different situation, different area. Try to suit to your needs or your needs of your study. Then when using citations gleaned from secondary sources, make sure those citations actually exist and find out what was really conveyed in those cited sources. This situation mostly we face when we try to do the literature review from the secondary sources which are available on the internet. So this situation mostly we face in that context. So always try to check your citations. So whatever is mentioned, please recheck it whether it is available or not. Check the dates, check the time, which is very important. and obtain permissions from authors when using large portions of their text and give them due credit in your writings. This is mostly in the literature studies where it happens, where the scholars wants to use the maximum portion of the text. So in such subjects, they need to take the permission from the author. So it is always better take permissions. It will keep you safe from and okay. Let me come to the consequences for the scientific misconducts. What can be the consequences of the scientific misconducts? There are so many consequences of scientific misconducts. There are the penalties which can be imposed on the researchers. But other than these, in social sciences and as well as in sciences, there are other other consequences. The important one is the social consequences. As one of the author named Zizek, who discusses the moral consequences of cheating, including the habit forming nature of cheating and cheating's devaluation of hard work, integrity, and fairness. So the habitual nature of cheating indicates that those who cheat in academic activities and think they can get away with it may continue to cheat at work, in family life, and in other aspects of life. In the long run, this attitude can be harmful, not only to cheater, but to everyone else affected by his or her actions, which have social impacts. So this scientific misconduct have social consequences in this way. When it comes to the another consequence is the loss of intellectual property. So academic dishonesty, like plagiarism, is equivalent to stealing another person's property. So it is similar to that act. So an original work, when you copy somebody's original work and when you don't give them credit, so it is like stealing their property. So this is the another consequence. Other than that, the next consequence is inaccurate assessment. Somewhere, somehow, especially in the student community, if somebody cheats, if somebody uses inappropriate methods, then it is really difficult to assess them accurately. So when it happens, definitely the people who are doing rightly, they feel cheated, and they feel they will be inaccurately assessed in comparison of those who had copied everything and who has presented things by collecting from others. So it affects the assessment among the students. Then let us come to the practical concern. So when suppose in the university person has got good grade because of this means he used scientific misconduct, he plagiarized and everything, he done all this and he got a very good grade, and on the basis of that grade he got a good job. But especially in the if we look into the sciences, like if a student of medical science, he cheats and he gets good grades and he go in the for the job as a doctor, then just think about what kind of a service he or she can give on the basis of his that copying part, his cheating. So what kind of results can come? So in practical concern, it is really it is dangerous for the society, that what kind of people are coming to serve them with what kind of a knowledge. Other than that, there are the legal consequences. The funding agencies can take the legal actions if the researcher or the university or the organization found to be guilty. Then there are the academic consequences. If researcher continues to be academically dishonest, which ultimately leads to the moral decline of the good researchers and teachers, along with the quality of education. Thus, academic dishonesty has long-term societal consequences. So overall, we can say that the consequence of scientific misconduct is a breach of trust. So misconduct can irreparably erode trust among colleagues, researchers, and funding agencies. More importantly, research misconduct can cause the public to lose confidence in the ability and integrity of research. So what are the causes of scientific misconducts? Why people fabricate their data, falsify their equipments, and copy things from others? There are these are the certain factors which contribute to this dishonest behavior, dishonest practice of copying things. The first one is peer pressure. So there is a famous saying which goes that misery loves company. So those who commit this academic misconduct can pressure others to do the same in many ways. So this is the one reason. Then another important reason is the academic pressure. Mostly researchers do this behavior because of getting good GPA. Then anonymity is there, which they face from their supervisors or from their teachers. And then the one important factor is the performance anxiety. In the era of this, in the time of this competition, everybody wants to perform best. And in this performance anxiety, mostly they follow these odd behaviors. So this is the another reason. Then poor time management. This is one of the important factor which leads to the scientific misconducts. Poor time management is the most important contextual cause of academic misconduct. The ability to manage time is an important feature of successful people, as well as it is important skill for the researcher to finish his or her task within the time. So researchers who cannot plan and manage their workloads and other activities and are usually behind in meeting their deadlines and can at times resort to cheating or plagiarism as an easy solution. So they prefer to cheat, plagiarize things, and finish their task within the time. So time management is one of the very important factors. Another one is situation that encourage academic dishonesty. Sometimes there are the situation which creates or which force researchers to have a academic dishonesty. So if there are no proper research guidelines, suppose you are doing a project and there are no proper research guidelines. So in this kind of a situation, researchers may commit act of academic dishonesty. Or if the penalties for violating this academic integrity standards are minimum, in that case also scholars may consider cheating to be worth of the risk of being caught. So these are the situations where most scholars try to go for the scientific misconduct. Then there is another one is the self-justification habits. There are some scholars which are engaged in self-talk in order to justify their actions to themselves, even though those actions may not be appropriate. Like they justify their cheating by telling themselves that they were cheating only once, or because they were sick and couldn't catch up. Sometimes maybe you have heard that no one will get hurt by this because of doing so. So these are the self-justification things which generally they give. Then comes the unfamiliarity with what constitutes academic dishonesty. Some researchers are genuinely may not know what constitutes cheating or plagiarism as a result. so this kind of researchers mostly unintentionally commit acts of academic dishonesty. And there are the scholars who commit this act of academic dishonesty because of technical issues also. Because today there are technological development in the area of research, and there are the scholars who lack these skills and they commit this kind of acts. Other than that, if a scholar, like if I'm a scholar and I went to I'm pursuing my study or study in USA, and if I'm not familiar with the research standards of that particular country, definitely there are maximum possibility with me to fall under this kind of act. So these could be these are the causes of scientific misconduct. Okay, what happens if scientific misconduct has alleged or proven? Definitely, mostly in many cases, papers can be retracted actually, and investigations can be set up against the student or the scholar, and which ultimately leads to the disciplinary action. So this is what happened. And if the case is extreme, then there is a possibility of revoke of an academic degree or the suspension or dismissal of the person from the organization or from the project. So these are the these are the actions which can be taken if the person is found guilty. And in the cases where the public money is involved, then definitely funding agencies can take researchers to the court for misconduct, as they have as they have effectively misappropriated public money. So there can be a legal action from funding agency on the person. So these can be happen if you found doing the guilty of the misconduct. Then how we can prevent scientific misconduct? So there are certain strategies which we can follow to prevent yourself from the scientific misconduct. So the first one, what you can do is when before so most often what we face is the question of right and wrong, which is fairly straightforward, and decision is not easy to make actually. Sometimes situation come when a scholar is not able to decide whether it is right or wrong. So what happens, it creates a dilemma. In such cases, what you can do, you may follow a strategy to make the right decision. So there is an author called Michael Davis who has given certain strategy which are dealing with this kind of a dilemma, which includes the first step is give yourself time. So when you faced with an academic dishonesty dilemma, do not respond immediately, but rather give yourself time to analyze the situation and take the appropriate course of action. Second one is analyze the situation and identify the facts. So analyze the situation to understand exactly what the questionable activity is all about and who is involved in it. Identify all the facts and information relevant to the activity. It can save you to fall into the scientific misconduct. Third way is identify options. Once you understand the facts of your situation, you have several options. So depending on the nature of the dilemma, these options can include refusing to participate in the act that can result in academic dishonesty, or can help you in finding out the
Ma'am, you are not audible.
Yes. Sorry. Is it visible? My PPT is visible?
No, ma'am. It
No?
is not visible now.
Just a second. Yeah, it is.
Now it is visible, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, yes, now.
So,
That's right.
so the last point is review the decision. So after implementing your decision, review the outcomes and learn from them to help your process similar situations in the future. So these are the strategy. If person follows, he or she can save himself from the scientific misconducts, which are suggested by author called this Michael Davis. Okay, so these are the measures which you can follow when you conduct a research study, which will help you to follow the ethics and avoid the scientific misconducts. So you can see that when you conduct research, before conducting your research, please develop a clear research plan, submit protocol to ethical review committee, and then prepare well with your research community and agree on the authorship. Then when you conduct research, so during the conduction of research period, follow the approved protocols, then gain consent, involve the community, protect yourself, your team, and your participants from these misconducts, and regularly check your data. Then after research, what you need to do is share your study report, return something back to the research community, follow publication ethics, use reference management software. So if you do all these things, definitely you can save yourself from the scientific misconducts. Let me come to the conclusion of the session. So as we discussed, what are the scientific misconducts? Scientific misconducts are unauthorized practices, and second thing is improper use of another person's work in the course of completing an academic activity. So what is important, even if you unintentionally use another person's work improperly, you are still guilty of academic dishonesty. So it is your responsibility to familiarize yourself with these directives and adhere to them in all your academic work. Okay. So with this, I would like to end up this session here, and the session is open for the question and answer. Thank you. Thank you for the listening. Hello.
Thank you, ma'am. This has been a very informative session. In fact, this has been really fascinating. This session is. I hope our participants have learned a lot. In fact, gained a lot from this session. So there is a question, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
I would just. Should I just? Yes. Okay, ma'am. So very nice explanation. This comes from Jahangir Hussain Alam. He says, very nice explanation, ma'am. It is observed that nowadays, most of the theses and dissertations are lack of, okay.
Yeah, I gone through the question in the chat box.
Yes, yes,
correct? Yeah.
yes.
Can I answer
that is
it?
there in the
Yeah.
chat box itself.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So you are right, Jahangir, that in last few years in the arena of research, we have observed that there were the copying of dissertation original works. Okay. So looking into that aspect, if you can see that UGC has come up with the idea of plagiarism checking when you submit your thesis. So definitely the future of research is bright in our country. We are also developing with the time, with the